Hey, everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast, and you know the drill by now, or at least I hope so. I'm going to be kicking the ball over to John, Randall, and I in just a little bit here for some video games chit-chat. We stay pretty focused this week. We don't veer off into like a million different conversations here. We kind of dig into some of Randall's recent retro spending after picking up those analog pocket adapters for a few different retro consoles, a couple of which he did not have access to before picking those up. We dig into some of my recent time, or I guess semi-recent time with Balatro. I did a stream of that a couple weeks back and won on my very first attempt streaming. That is, obviously I had played quite a few runs before that after we dug into Balatro on like a full episode proper, but we kind of dig into some of like the different jokers and stuff like that. And then John's been firing up yet another Monster Hunter game. I'm sure that we'll be digging into Monster Hunter Generations a little bit in future episodes, but he kind of digs into some of his like early goings here. I think he's playing on Switch, although I think the series or game or whatever it is originally came out on the 3DS. But before I toss it over to that, I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that I've been playing lately. I've been kind of all over the map on my Switch. I've been kind of going nuts on the games on sale. Even I know I've said in recent episodes, like anything that's like $2-3, and now I've been bumping it for like certain games. I know I've talked about like What the Golf on the podcast in the past after playing the demo. I saw that for like the cheapest price I'd ever seen it, and also just like scooped up a handful of games that I've played on streams and or talked about on the podcast that I was just like, I played this on PC. And as much as I, in some cases, even played all the way through it, like I picked up Grapple Dog or A Short Hike. But there's a few games that I picked up, like Chico and the Magic Orchards and Super Mega Zero, that I played quite a bit of, but never finished all the way through. And I definitely was like, I definitely will play more of this if I'm playing it on Switch or on a console or whatever. But a couple games that I did want to give a shout out to a little more properly here. I fired up this game, Super Magbot. This is a game that we checked out with our Indie Game Collective pals way back when, which unfortunately they just kind of closed up shop. I think they're going to be hoping to start back up in the future, but I think it just became a little bit too big of a project to manage with all like kind of volunteer work and whatnot. But definitely a little bit of a bummer there. But I guess, in the spirit of them closing up shop and sending a little love their way, back to this Super Magbot game. It's a really, really solid, like kind of arcade driven. I always think like arcade in the sense that there's no real like world map, although there is a little bit of story and cutscene, which is really well done in between like each world and whatever. But basically you're just playing through like a zone of like 27 stages in each zone, and it's a precision platformer but with no jumping. Although you kind of feel like you can jump, you can basically use the left trigger and the right trigger to use the two different polarities of your magnet. And then there'll be red and blue platforms all over the place that you can either repel or, attract yourself towards in a number of different ways. Like sometimes you're just standing on like a regular platform, a red platform, and then you use your red, magnet power or whatever to just kind of do a regular jump off of that. But sometimes there'll be like a vertical blue platform, like right at the ledge of a platform or whatever you want to call it, or a block. And then you jump towards that, and then you kind of attract yourself towards it on an angle, and you're kind of using it. You're kind of playing this almost like a twin stick platformer, and then you're using your two shoulder buttons for the different polarities, again, to either attract or repel yourself towards these different red or blue platforms. And then there'll be all, various types. I've just cleared like the first world and then played a couple stages of the second world, which is already getting really freaking tough, especially if you're going for all the collectibles. I think on the first handful of stages, they didn't have anything, but after that, there's like 2 star fragments on any given stage, and you have to collect both of those to like get the full piece or whatever. And I'm not 100% sure what those do, if anything. They might just be collectibles. But even after I cleared the first world, there's like this giant comet that comes through, or asteroid or whatever, that just like eats that planet or destroys it. And then it opens up like a broken version of that world. I don't know exactly how that works. I didn't dig into that, but I was like, man, this game is going to be huge. And it's definitely really, really, well fit for people who are into like speed running. It keeps a time, gives you your personal best on each one. You can retry a stage right after if you like, but I just really love the pixel art. It's got some great music. The only downside to that is like, again, but with the first world being 27 stages, I believe it's just one song that kind of loops the whole time. Maybe it ramps up a little bit, because I did kind of feel like it evolved over time, but I never really noticed like a track change or anything like that. Not that it's a negative thing. Again, the music's really good, but if you're getting stuck, again, I played maybe like an hour or so here, maybe a little bit less than that, but again, really loved also like the final stage of the first world was like kind of like a boss race. You got this like giant mech thing chasing you, and you're just like sprinting to the finish line. Not really much time to think about what you need to do. You just got to ace it without, again, like the challenge on this game is just really, really tough in a good way. And then a couple other games that I wanted to mention real quick as well. A game that I've been really wanting to pick up for a long time, or at least as long as it's been out, Gunbrella. And this is the next game from Doinksoft and Devolver Digital. I think Devolver actually just recently, or I guess semi-recently, a few months back or whatever, like fully acquired Doinksoft. Like they're kind of part of Devolver now. And I think they have published all their games anyways, but Doinksoft, that is, made Gato Roboto, and then also Demon Throttle, and then Gunbrella feels a little more in the same vein as Gato Roboto, being that's like a Metroidvania platformer. Demon Throttle was more of that like NES-inspired top-down shoot-'em-up kind of situation, but yeah, with Gunbrella, again, you're back to like action platforming. You got your gun, and then you have this like umbrella that you can use as like kind of a shield, or also like a dash attack. You can kind of like aim it in any direction and kind of like launch yourself pretty high in the air, and then also keep it held down to kind of glide yourself down softly, not necessarily to avoid fall damage, because the best I can tell there's none of that, but just to like slowly, you know, navigate certain paths and stuff like that. And I'm only in the early going. I'm played like the first like, you know, hour-ish, I would say. And I'm definitely enjoying myself so far. It's a little less immediate than Gato Roboto. Like there's some good, like cheeky, funny dialogue sequences in Gato Roboto, but it kind of gets like right to the point, where this game has a little more, I feel like, world building, and you're talking to characters, and it is really well done and funny, and you can kind of breeze through it a little quicker if you want, but I'm in that mindset of like, you can talk to these characters, and then you know, they'll say something, and then it'll open up one or two new things that you can ask them about. And then maybe they'll say something else, and it'll open up one or two more things that you can ask them about. And it just keeps kind of building at times. And it gets a little bit annoying, for me at least. I like to just kind of like rock and roll. And then when you do get into the action sequences, the game kind of defaults to hard difficulty, and I tend to kind of just pick whatever the default setting is, although there is a normal and an easy as well. It doesn't really say what the differences are, but I was like, hey, if it defaults to hard, I'm just going to jump right in and give this a go. And it is definitely pretty tough. Like these enemies, at least the ones that I've seen so far, I mean, they just start like machine gun firing at you, and you know, they're aiming directly at you, and they don't really have much pause in between their fire. You don't have a lot of time to dodge, and if you know, even if you get a shot in, they're going to get another shot right away. You have to kind of use your umbrella to like dash into them, kind of knock them back a little bit, and not stun them, but they just pauses them for just long enough to blast them, or at least that's the way I've been playing for the most part. I mean, there's a few different enemies that you can kind of sneak up on or get a pot shot in or two, but if there's like 2 or 3 enemies in a given spot and you have to kind of like work your way around them, it gets really, really tough. But I really love the presentation of this one. I love the pixel art, like beyond love the pixel art. Just really, really good stuff. It also has like a really cool film grain over it that you can tweak, you know, how much or how little of that. I think you can turn it all the way off if you like, but I kind of like just left everything at default. And I really, really love the music as well. It's kind of got this like spy thriller kind of vibe, maybe not thriller, but just like mystery spy. I don't know. It just got this jazzy, funky kind of energy to it. And I really, really love just seeing like kind of a Gato Roboto style-ish game, but in full color, even though it definitely leans into like kind of brown, murky kind of aesthetic. There's some definitely plenty of colors as well, but I'm really excited to see what this game ends up having to offer. Like I said, I haven't played too much, but I just really, really have been loving what I've been playing so far. And then another game that I picked up on sale recently on Switch here was INMOST, and this is a game that I actually had on PC from one of the various itch.io bundle charity things that I've picked up over the years. But I kind of figured like, hey, this game has like a ton of pixel particles going on, and I just felt like it probably wouldn't run all that great on my little laptop here. So I figured, and you never know how something's going to run on Switch in all fairness as well, but I figured like, at least with the Switch, I'm not going to, you know, fidget around with trying to tweak the settings and stuff. So I'll just be able to live with, hey, this is the way it is. Although I'm happy to say that so far I haven't really noticed anything I did boot it up for a brief second on my PC when I first got it, just to like fire it up and see the intro. And the intro sequence is really, really great. It's a little bit slow starting. It kind of feels a little bit like a Limbo inspired platformer in the sense that like you sometimes just get like these surprise deaths that kill you. Thankfully, there's like usually a checkpoint right away. There's kind of these lamps that are like your proper checkpoints that are maybe if you start a new, go back to a chapter or something. I think you can kind of select in the pause menu, like, a different chunk of the game or a different checkpoint. But I think maybe if you like quit out of the game and go back into it, maybe that's where you start from. But if you die, you seem to kind of spawn like on maybe not necessarily the most recent safe platform that you were on, but definitely, very nearby to whatever obstacle that just killed you, which is always really nice, especially when you get kind of like killed without knowing that something was going to be right there waiting around the corner, because there are some of those like kind of jump scare situations or whatever you want to call them. And there's a little bit of like a horror element to the game, definitely a mysterious element to the game as well. You kind of start out playing as this little girl, best I can tell, and you're like you got to push these chairs around and boxes, and it's just a small little puzzle to solve. And it's definitely more of a puzzle platformer, but there's some action as well, and you kind of shift between these different characters, at least in the opening bits. Maybe this is just like a kind of like prologue to the game or something like that, and you'll end up leaning into one of the characters. But I'm kind of getting the impression is not. There's like this main like bearded character that you're kind of playing as that you can just do like a regular jump, climb ladders, like definitely leaning into like a puzzle platformer. You don't have a ton of abilities other than jumping and using the different things in the environment, like triggering switches and levers and stuff like that. And then you do have like a little bit of like a dodge roll, not so much that makes you invincible, but you can just roll quickly like over a spot that, if a shadow monster will jump out of this hole or something, you can roll real quickly over it, and maybe not necessarily over a pit or whatever, but over this gap where it'll come out of the ground and snatch you up or whatever. But again, you'll respawn real quickly, and then again, you play here and there. It might have even been just in that opening segment where I played as that little girl, and then there's also this other like kind of like knight looking character that has this grappling hook that you can fire either up, vertically or horizontally at certain points, and like sling yourself across the screen. And then you also have a sword that you can attack with. With all the other characters, it seems like it's pretty much one hit kill for anything. But with this character, it seemed like I could take some damage. Maybe that's with the armor I had on. I'm not 100% sure. Again, the story and stuff is really mysterious at this point. Like I'll just kind of hit a point in the game with that bearded character, and then it'll switch me over to the one of the other characters of that night, and it seems like it's almost like a dream or a memory or something like that. I'm piecing the puzzle together, both in the game itself but also in the story. But there is like some dialogue as well. There's some janky moments, like there was this one part where I was like, the dialogue was actually like popping up off the screen because the character was kind of off the screen, and maybe that was on purpose to just like let me know like, hey, you got to go up this way, but like I was missing the first chunk of half the words, they're in like the top left of the screen. And it seems like it's kind of like a Metroidvania-ish in the sense that like the whole map so far seems to be stitched together, although not necessarily when you're like warping into those memories, and things keep kind of like shifting too. But I just really love, it's almost got like a pseudo, like it's not 2.5D, but it just has this like depth to it that I really love. And it's got like a pseudo Game Boy kind of vibe too. At least maybe that's just because there's like a limited palette and it kind of leans into like the shadows and stuff like that. But I just really, really love the presentation of this game. And then just real quickly, I'm not going to talk about this one a ton because I have a feeling that Randall's going to end up playing this game as well. And I didn't actually pick it up. I just played the demo. But I guess just briefly, since I even mentioned at the beginning of talking about INMOST, their games that don't always run the best on the Switch, I saw that Penny's Big Breakaway was already on sale for like 33% off. It was $20 instead of 30. And while I was looking at the page, I saw that there was a demo, and I was like, oh, dang, you know what? I kind of want this game on Switch. And in all reality, I kind of want to wait and see. I think I might have even said this before, at least when we were talking, if not on a podcast proper, when me and the guys were talking. But it's one of those games that I kind of want to wait for a physical copy just because I love 3D platformers, and it just feels like I want to just own it. But who knows if it'll ever exist. So being that it's on sale for a decent price and pretty new, I'm like, I might snag this right now. But anyways, I downloaded the demo to see how it would run on Switch, and I'm happy to report that I'm definitely considering picking it up on Switch because I played the first 2 stages, which is all that's available in the demo there. And it runs smooth as butter, best I can tell. I mean, it might run with better frame rates or even smoother on other platforms, but I didn't have a single hitch or anything like that. while I was playing, and I was kind of expecting some of that, because even in Nintendo games proper, from the big Nintendo themselves, they'll be a little bit janky at times, or at least they'll cut corners to make things run smoother. And this one didn't seem to be doing any of that. I really enjoyed the gameplay a ton. It's definitely very inspired by Sonic, and no surprise given the lineage of the developers and the team working on the game. But the music was fantastic. Again, also no surprise. But I really love the overall move set. It's taken a little bit of getting used to. And again, I only played a little bit the first 2 stages of the demo here. But you use the same button for a lot of different things. Like you use Y to like attack, but then you also can, if you hold it down, you can kind of like just like suspend your yo-yo, which is your main source of attacking, in midair, and it kind of like not grapples, but you can like swing and then let go and like do like almost like a double jump. But then you can also press B, the jump button twice to sort of do a double jump. It's not, you don't get extra height necessarily, but you can just like hang a little extra. But if you press Y quickly to attack and then press it again, you do like a dash with your yo-yo, like it pulls you towards it. So there's like a lot of button combinations that use the same 1 or 2 buttons, but that you have to like, hold it down or release it a little more quickly or tap it, double tap it. And it's just getting a little bit confusing. Like I kept dying on this one pit that I kept trying to jump over, where it's like, this is not a difficult part, but I just kept overthinking like, okay, I want to swing and get those coins, but I'd hit B to double jump instead of hold down Y to swing. And it just gets a little bit confusing. But you can also like use one of the shoulder buttons to kind of like roll on your yo-yo, and you can kind of almost charge it up if you're standing still, Sonic spin dash style. And that's really my only real, tiny gripe with the game is when if you do hit a moment where you do stop moving, you get to a point where like, okay, your momentum takes a quick second to get moving, where you're almost at like a standstill. Like there was a couple parts where I was kind of like running into a corner and like not quite getting around it, and like it was just taking me forever to build up my momentum, and I was just like, oh my god, this is so annoying. I almost thought it was like a bug or I got stuck or something, but I think I was just like running into the wall. But nonetheless, once you get your momentum going, it's really, really fun stuff. The only other, I guess, gripe I have is you have these like penguins that chase you around at certain portions of the stage, and they kind of like are relentless, and there's no real way to, you can fling them off of you by doing either that like dash or that spin attack or that swing attack. You can do a bunch of different, basically just button mash and get them off of you, but you can't really like, I don't know, those sections just feel a little bit too frantic, and I can't really like explore and look for coins. And one other thing worth mentioning is that they don't give you any camera control apart from using the Y button to attack. You can also use the right stick to like pinpoint aim where you want to launch your yo-yo, in whatever direction. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of fun to play a game where you don't have to worry so much about exploring every little nook and cranny, because you're like, okay, if I can't turn the camera over there, they're obviously not wanting me to go that way. But that's not to say that there aren't some secrets if you poke around the edges of a stage or whatever. But anyways, I've done way more than enough rambling at this point. This is probably the longest intro I've ever done. So I'll leave it there for this Save It for the Cast, and I'll kick it over to John, Randall, and I for a little more video game goodness. And until next week, we'll catch you then, and take care.
I want to know how many games you bought specifically since you got the adapter.
Okay, I think I remember what this is now.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, we'll talk about it. That's what we'll talk about.
Okay.
Oh boy. I'm hoping that like at least one of them was like a bulk crate where it's like someone is like, here's
with like a few gems
every
in
game that I owned in this.
A couple gems, and it's like, okay, this kind of justifies the price, and then I get maybe a few hidden gems in this huge pile.
Actually did get one bulk order was in there, yes.
What was the term they would always, what do they use that for that on eBay? A lot.
Yes.
A lot of
yes.
games. Yeah, I remember just like, God, I
games.
used to scour eBay like a maniac.
I know that on the Goodwill website, they have a technical term for like when you get like a pallet-sized box
Yeah.
full of like unsorted things. It's called a gaylord.
Wow. I did
And,
not
like,
know this.
Yeah, I didn't either until it would be like Gaylord of PlayStation 1s. And it's just
Box? A pallet box.
But like some of them like don't have like the like tray lid.
Yeah.
Like they're just
So
like,
just like
four
broken.
parts.
You're literally just buying, like, okay, I'm going to refurbish and build some or
because
you know.
they don't have the like capacity to like sort through them and see which ones are functional. They're
Fair.
just like, we put them in an industrial sized box and are putting this up for sale.
Come get
think
this
those-
off the dock, please.
If those boxes are the way I'm picturing them too, because my dad used to run that plastics factory and he would get these giant boxes that were literally the size of a pallet that were full of like the little pellets that you melt into like the plastic injection machines.
Yeah.
And it was insane how huge those boxes were. Oh man. Picturing one of those just full of any one console
Well,
is kind of nuts.
there was a dude in Fenville who had opened up like downtown. He was just like, yeah, I just went on like all these websites and just bought every one of those of books. And he's like, and now I have a bookstore. And it's just like, he's like, I'm still sorting through everything. And we just went through, and I also had a ton of DVDs. So like I was buying a bunch of DVDs.
Where
but,
is
like,
Fenville again? Is that in Michigan?
yeah, it's
I
like
was gonna say I thought that sounds familiar.
Middle East Michigan.
Okay. Yeah.
Or Central East Michigan. And
I feel like that's like kind of near like Howell. I feel like when I work in Howell, I sometimes get patients that live near Fenville, but it might just be a name that sounds familiar.
yeah, they have some wineries. It's just like
Maybe that's
just
what I know from
south
wine.
of like where wine country is, and like so the quality is not as good as like actual, because it's also not on it's in like farmland.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have any of like the like temperate zone of being like on a peninsula or anything. So, but
Yeah.
it's one of the people that Lauren did like a show with was doing has a barn and like a loom and like raises goats and like uses their wool to make like fiber art.
Hell yeah.
And it was
That's sweet.
It was the coolest thing, but it was like in the middle of no. Oh yeah, I saw Gillian from Turnspit there.
Okay, nice.
She was playing a show there, and I was just like, "Hey, how are you here? Like, how are we in this rural city in like Michigan?"
in the same setting. Yeah.
Yeah,
At the same
that
time.
was nice.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh man, I'm trying to look at I streamed my Balatro run last night, and I don't know if you saw in the Discord that I won that run, John.
I did.
I had the most filthy stacked deck that you can imagine, like
Give it
or
to
stack of not stack but of jokers. I can't see what these are. I'm trying to remember. I'm just looking at them on the stream. So I had the one where like all cards that are played count as face cards.
Yeah.
It's a good
And
one.
then I had another card that was every time a face card is played, you get a 1 in 2 chance to get $2.
Yup.
And then I had another joker that was double all probabilities, so it was just a 2 in 2 chance. So every time I played a card, then I had the bull that gives you +2 chips for every dollar you have in the bank. So I was just spending away because I still had a ton of money, and I was still like pretty much over 100. So I'm just
Mr.
getting, like,
Burns over here.
and then I had a foil or whatever joker that gives you like the +10 multiplier.
Yeah.
And then it was what was it? It was like I think like ×2 multiplier, and then like plus times 0.25 for every like new card you add to your deck. And obviously I was just loaded with money, so I just kept buying shit left and right. And then I think just at the very end, I did get rid of one of those because there was like a joker that was like every pair get, +4 multiplier. And I was just like, okay, now that I'm on the last round, the money's not going to help me out here anymore. So I might as well just cash this out and just double down, and finally won a run. But it was just like, oh my God, I could just feel it happening. I was like, here it is. This is the one.
Yeah.
When you
This is the
feel
one.
it.
Snowball.
Yeah, because I had the one where it was the like pair of pants or whatever Joker, where every 2 pair you play, like you get additional either multiplier or chips added to the Joker. So I would just be playing low pairs and literally grinding the level up of that. Yeah. And just like, it was ridiculous at the point that I won.
I just found out too, I didn't realize that like when you, like if you have one of those Jokers that's like get, plus multiplier or plus chips or whatever for like a pair, even if you play a full house, like you have a pair in that hand and it counts. I didn't think that counted. I thought I was playing hands earlier on, like
any pair, any straight. Like they say like, so that if you get a straight flush, then like that is just goes off the rails because it's adding the Joker multiplier for a straight on top of like a straight flush, which is just one of the highest things.
Good Lord. Wow.
Oh, I love like, it's the same thing in Risk of Rain. I love when I'm just like exploding across the screen and I'm like, this is fun. This is just goofy.
I am the god of this area.
Mm-hmm. I definitely dig it. I mean, it still does feel like a little bit more like luck induced to me, but you can, it is fun to just like, lean, just like in Slay the Spire. Although to me, that there feels like a little more strategy in that, but you do have to just like lean into what you're dealt.
Yeah.
And try to make the best of it. And that is really fun in that regard. Yeah. And it's been perfect having that and Lonely Mountains to just bounce between. Like I fired up a daily before we hopped on here.
Same dude.
Today's daily was great.
That was good. I like us like just a low, whatchamacallit, like obstacles, like just enough to force you down a beaten path, and it'll show you like,
where routes. You've said this before, but today I found like 5 new that was a trail I've never played at all, period. But like I was taking like one shortcut and I was like, wait a minute, is that another one over there? So I was like, I thought it was leading me down this one path, and I was like, wait, there's like 3 more. That game is fucking insane. Whoever designs those levels is a goddamn genius. I swear to God, there's so many ways you can go. It's insane.
I want it to be like a Hitman where they just keep adding like seasons to it.
Yeah. Because give me a new mountain or not whatever, new trail down the mountain.
I would gladly pay full price. And like, even if they like add just like one more mountain, but add like an additional trail to like some of the existing ones.
Yeah.
God,
I'll take anything they can keep throwing my way with that game, man. It is just so addicting.
Mm-hmm.
I almost gave up on today's. There was like this one long checkpoint stretch where I was like, fucking, I just can't. I keep dying in the dumbest ways. And I was just like, nah, I can't. And then another nice thing about Balatro too, though, is like, I keep thinking my runs are like an hour plus, and that one that I won was like maybe like 45 minutes. And like, so even when you don't win one, they're like 20, 30 minutes. Like, I don't know. I like how the scope of a run feels nice.
Yeah.
A little bite-sized.
Yeah.
I'm typing down all of the things that I'm pretty sure that I've got. So it's nice. Doing a little collating here.
You're going through your eBay history.
Uh-huh.
I wrote down a couple notes about Solar Ash just because I was like, man, it's been a minute since I played that one, actually. I need to go back to that one too.
I might, because I've become completely Monster Hunter pilled, and it's the 20th anniversary, and like it's just been people like posting. They did a popularity contest for best monster, and like it's been this whole thing, like just getting hype up for Wilds when it comes out. And apparently like Monster Hunter World is like set like records for being like sales on like years after its release, because people are buying it now in anticipation of Wilds.
That's amazing.
But like I remember like our friend Jonathan telling me like back when like I was saying, it's like, oh yeah, I'm mostly playing Rise, and he's like, every single game still has a player base, and like people are still playing like it was actually a huge drama because Nintendo, I don't know, whoever was holding the servers for one of the 3DS, like they were shutting it down because why would you keep a server open for 3D? No, it was a I think it was a piracy thing because someone had been running like
their own fan server or whatever.
Right, so that people could play emulators on it and play an emulated version of like whatever 3DS Monster Hunter it was, and Nintendo shut it down, and that became a whole discussion on preservation and like, you know, if you're not able to play the game on like 3DS online, like what are you gaining from shutting this down? And,
Right.
But that said, I might play Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate again now that I've played so many hours of the series, and I'm like, I bet I can go back and I bet I can actually play that game now. And
I can see that,
man. Because I remember playing a demo for that game. I can't remember if it was on 3DS or if it was that Switch like port remake. But you can get into games that I don't get into, obviously, but it is very primitive compared to the newer Monster Hunters, like Hunters.
But I also really only played light bowgun back when I played Generations Ultimate, and that game didn't have dual stick controls for the guns.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think now that I know how to play a lot more weapons, that I can probably play that game and like embrace the jank as like limitations or like an additional difficulty, because I know that there are people who play World and Rise and think that they dumbed the series down for casuals.
Fair enough. Yeah, I remember just playing that and thinking it was just there was so much like loading in between, like nothing, not that it took that long, but just like between like, okay, I got to go to this like room, you know, quote unquote, or this zone. And it was like, oh, this one. And like, oh man, this is tedious.
Yup.
And then you die and got to do it again. Okay. Maybe not. So, but
I think I've done enough low rank missions that I could craft a decent weapon and start over from the beginning and just be like, all right, I'm treating this as a tutorial, just replaying missions.
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be fun to go back to, though.
Yeah.
When the series that I really like, there is something to be said for that. It's just like, I don't know, like an archival dig or something of like, I'm aware of a lot of this, but not this specific one. I wonder what that's all about. Just like, that has value.
And even though I was an adult when I started playing the series, like I still think that like skill is not a linear thing, and like going back and playing like, because good God, I never beat Super Mario World for like decades probably, and then I just like went back when that was a kid, like when I first played it versus an adult when I beat it, but like still I know a lot more about the series. I know a lot more about the language of it. I think I could probably go in a much better position, like primed for success, than I was going into the series for the very first time.
Yeah. Oh man, what order do we want to hammer stuff out in tonight? You getting a little freeze frame on Randall, John, or?
I am, but never on the audio.
Yeah, never on the audio, and it's not phasing me too much.
Yeah.
Am I still frozen?
I get I think so, yeah. I can never tell, because sometimes you do make that look
now you're frozen
for a while. Oh, new frozen.
Oh, wow.
Oh, now you're moving a little more.
I'm also concentrating.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes you do make that look like right over the mic, like at least for me, like it's frozen right now, and you've made that look intently when the camera's been live before. So, but on my end, it's no sweat.
Yeah, I've got no issues with the audio, and that's the thing. Anytime the audio hitches, that's when it like is worrying.
Throws me off a tad.
Yeah, but
I am recording the Skype too, so
I know
I have to legally let you know that.
Nice.
Oh man.